Assalamu alaikum students. I hope you are all in good health. So I'm Mavish Latif. I'm going to represent or teaching you the poem and given a task that is the part of your home assessment as well. So the subject is, as you know, the English, and the topic is the poem which we have already studied, Stopping by Woods in a Snowy Evening. Before I forget to tell the date and date, the 7th April 2020, and the day is Tuesday. So we all the sections have studied the basic the poems and the concept. We have all the given the concept of this poem. So the diary which I have to assign all of you, the poem number 8, Stopping by Woods in a Snowy Evening. All paraphrases is for learn and HA, means it is mandatory to write it in a calligraphy. The thing is which I always tell in my class, that is, as you all know, there is very mandatory to character building. So you know God ordered Muslims to pray 5 times a day. So it is very mandatory, students, to all of us as being Muslims to pray 5 times a day. So it is very critical situations. We are surviving, everyone surviving in these days. So pray or dua is very compulsory, is for you, and after the prayer means namaz. So pray for yourself, your parents, your teachers, your elders, everyone which is close to you or not. So now move on the poem Stopping by Woods in a Snowy Evening. I just review the summary of this poem. Okay students, now the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. The poet name is Robert Frost, and the poem is, firstly I read it. Whose words these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though he will not see me stopping here to watch his words fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year, he gives his harness bell a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only sounds the sweep of easy winds and downy fleet. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but if I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So student, the very first stanza, first of all, the poet want in this stanza is on the surface, the poem is simplicity itself. Like students, the speaker is stopping by woods on a snowy evening, and he takes in a lovely scene in mere silence, means is tempted to stay longer. So but acknowledge the pull of obligations and considerably distance yet to be travelled before he can rest for the night. As I told you before, the sleep means death. In the class, sleep means death, and there are one more thing we noted here, alliteration. And what is alliteration? The repetition of sound, same sound. Like in this poem, no, though, snow. First line, second line and fourth line. Every stanza, first line, second line and fourth line. Similarly, when we have look in a second stanza, what's the alliteration in it? Quer, near and year. Shake, mistake and flake. Deep, keep, sleep, sleep. And at the end of a very last stanza, deep, sleep and sleep. The third line is repeated and fourth line is the same. So Robert Frost wants to tell us what? Firstly, this is a poem like the notable exception of this pattern comes in a finally stanza where the third line rhymes with the previous two and is repeated as the fourth line. So this is a fourth line repeated as a fourth line that I mentioned before. Deep, sleep and sleep. The third and fourth line is repeated. So students, when we have look in a second stanza, what's the alliteration in it? Quer, near and year. Shake, mistake and flake. Deep, keep, sleep, sleep. And at the end of a very last stanza, deep, sleep and sleep. The third line is repeated and fourth line is the same. So Robert Frost wants to tell us what? Firstly, this is a poem like the notable exception of this pattern comes in a finally stanza where the third line rhymes with the previous two and is repeated as the fourth line. So this is a fourth line repeated as a fourth line that I mentioned before. Deep, sleep and sleep. The third and fourth line is repeated. So students, why we stayed here, there is no farmhouse near. So in the third stanza, we move on the third stanza. When the horse gives his harness bell a shake, the sound seems to pull the speaker out of his trance-like state. His horse remind him that they should get going. Evidently, the speaker has been to town on his way back home. Like he move or shake his harness bell and to ask his master there is something wrong or there is some mistaken by me. So this was actually the happen, as we all know the horse would not say any kind of word, so he moved his harness bell. So so it's a little horse standing there in a falling snow and it might go on the nearest farmhouse. So it's a very serious accident and would follow the road back to where the house has been, where the horse has been standing. So in the last stanza, the speaker is reminded us, the students, what he reminded us, like all the things lovely, dark and deep. Firstly, he admired the wood, means forest, and he remind his promises, and he remind us all the us that we do promises to keep and we have to fulfill. So he has at that time he has the time to fulfill his promises. The speaker, like the poet Robert Frost, is reminded that he has obligation and some responsibilities to fulfill this. So he has been far away in his solidarity thoughts and now is returning to reality. So he has to fulfill his promises. He has to go few miles ago, and there is no destination to reach. He has to reach his destination before his sleep, means before his death. So here is the very task that I have assigned in a previous clip. So it is your home assessment, students. So I hope you all done in a good manner, and I expect all of you to learn this words, means alliteration, and the concept of alliteration, the paraphrases of this poem, and done your HA. I hope so, and thank you so much for learning me, and Allah Hafiz, students.